Hello, today we're going to be looking at solving Project Euler problem number 1. The reason I'm doing these videos is because when I look at some of my old codes, I'm just like, what was he thinking? And it's not perhaps the most readable code in the world. So I want to get better at that, and I think the way to do that is by explaining how to do stuff to people, or at least trying to make your code a bit more readable deliberately. I think a good way to practice that is maybe solving problems like this in front of an audience, even if that audience is just me. Alright, so Project Euler is just like a bunch of sort of computer mathsy problems for people to go ahead and solve. I've done a few of them, as you can see by this sort of matrix, mostly the easy ones, as you might imagine. And today we're just going to start by solving number 1. Alright, so if we list all of the natural numbers below 10, let multiples of 3 or 5, we get 3, 5, 6, and 9. The sum of these multiples is 23. Find the sum of all the multiples of 3 or 5 below 1,000. Alright, so how can we do this? I think instead of printing out hello, maybe we should print out the answer. And to get the answer, we're going to generate all of the numbers below 1,000, and we're going to check if they are a multiple of 3 or a multiple of 5. If they are, we're going to keep them. If they're not, we're going to throw them away, and then out of the ones that we've kept, all we're going to do is add them up. Are there more efficient ways to do this? Yes, but like I said, we're going for the sort of most intuitive, most readable, most accessible way. So let's see if we can do it, and let's see if it works. Alright, so the kind of way to generate numbers, or the way I generate numbers in Scala 3, which is the language I'm using, is I use iterator.range, and I spell iterator correctly. And we'll start with the first natural number, best known as 1, and this time we really will spell iterator correctly, and then we're going to have the sort of maximum of 1,000, and this is kind of inclusive, so I'll just do stuff below 1,000, which is exactly what we want. Then we're going to want a way of like telling if a number is a multiple of 3 or a multiple of 5. So the standard way of doing this in programming is usually you just say, is the remainder when you divide by 3 equal to 0? So if you divide 6 by 3, there's no remainder, the remainder is 0. If you divide 7 by 3, you're going to get 2 with a remainder of 1. It's kind of like going back to primary school maths, and I'm kind of here for it. So if we want to say is multiple of 3, that's going to take an x, which is an integer, and I guess we're going to return a boolean, true or false, and then we're going to use like I said, we're going to take the remainder. The way to do that in Scala is using this percentage sign. I think it's kind of the same in a lot of languages, but who knows. And similarly, we're going to do is multiple of 5, which is kind of the same, and we're going to return a boolean again, and it's going to be x percentage 5 is 0. But I kind of noticed these are kind of the same, so maybe I can just do let's see if this actually is nice, but it might not actually be that nice, but let's see. So is multiple of n, where n is an integer, and then the thing you pass to it is going to be this x that we're kind of used to it there, and that's obviously just going to be x remainder n equals, no, not b, n. This is, I can't touch type, so, you know, I kind of make mistakes every now and then. Alright, so is multiple of, perhaps is a better name. And then what we're going to want to do is, I guess we're going to want to use a way of keeping hold of stuff if it passes some predicate. The way to do this in Scala is with filter. So we're going to take our x and we're going to check, is it a multiple of 3? Is our x a multiple of 3? Or is it a multiple of 5? Like this. And we're going to plug in our x there. And I guess we can kind of delete these functions because we're kind of just using this one that's down here, which is fine. And then finally, I said we're going to add them all up. So there's a million ways you can do this, but you know, in Scala, we're just going to add, it's just called sum. Alright, so these things kind of take a while to build when I'm trying to record stuff, but I thought I'd also like time it, so I use this like timer thing, I guess, and it's just like, here's the start time, I'm gonna execute the code, like this funny arrow thing means it gets passed in lazily, so it doesn't evaluate it until it's used in the sort of body out here. Then we're gonna just subtract the time it finishes, we're gonna print how long it took, and we're also gonna print the result. And return the result as well, just in case we ever need it. Alright, so I'm gonna like stop recording, build the stuff out, and we're gonna see how long it takes, and also if it's correct. Alrighty, looks like it's built it and run it. It seems to take less than a second, which is good. I guess like 400 milliseconds isn't amazing for just doing addition, but I guess there's other things going on my computer and stuff. Alright, let's see if this answer's right then. And I'm going to probably have to refresh this to get the whole capture thing. There we go. So, what is it? 61462. Let's go ahead and check it. And we're right. Excellent. Alright, I guess like one last thing I was going to say is like, because I kind of want to make this, I guess, readable, kind of like as close to English as possible, I'm just going to introduce like one last thing to maybe make it a bit nicer. And this is just a little infixed syntax for taking a function that returns a boolean and another function that returns a boolean, and kind of just checking if either of them is true. So let's see if this makes it any more readable. It might not. You might think this is horrible, and I might think it's horrible. I won't know until I see what it looks like. But obviously, we're just going to take like our a. So this is going to return a function, obviously, and we're going to see if f is true or g is true. So that's this is a kind of scala free like syntax. So we're going to replace that with or, and we're not going to need to mention x, and we're not going to need that. So it's a bit more readable, I guess, because it just goes like, is multiple of 3 or is multiple of 5, but you know, it's not a massive difference. I'm going to run this, go and check if it works. It does work, but it takes a bit longer. Oh, is 200 milliseconds worth it? Who knows? Anyway, we've solved the problem in a couple of ways. There are better ways to do it, but like, you know, you can work out those by yourself. I was just going for a way that's kind of readable and legible. If you actually did watch this video and got to the end, thank you very much. And I'll sort of just end by saying that this is the first video I've ever made. It will be the worst video ever made. So just remember that, and I guess I'll see you next time for problem 2.